Before you get started on your genetics lectures, there are a few terms I want to discuss with you to make sure you're comfortable with them. One of them is a gene. If you'll remember back to our discussion on DNA, a gene is a discrete region of DNA that codes for a protein. So when you have messenger RNA and it goes out of the nucleus and it gets translated, that is actually taking a single copy of a gene out to produce a protein. These proteins can then produce a trait, which is a characteristic of an organism. For example, height. Now, traits can come in different forms, and in genetics we call these different forms an allele. An allele is a version of a trait or a gene. So if our trait is height, then a version could be tall or short, and you have an allele for each. Alleles may be dominant, which is when an allele is expressed if it's present, and this is represented by a capital letter, such as tall would be a capital T, assuming tall is dominant. Other alleles are what is called recessive. Recessive alleles are alleles that may be masked partially or completely by a dominant allele. These are represented by a lowercase letter, and if we go back to our height example of a trait, our alleles being tall and short, tall is dominant with a capital T, short will be recessive with a lowercase t, not an S. The letters used follow that of the dominant gene. There is an additional fact I'd like to discuss. As you know, when a cell goes through meiosis, it produces 4 copies of itself, and each one contains a single copy of a gene, a single version of each chromosome. So an individual gets 2 copies of each gene, one from mom and one from dad. These may be different alleles. If you get 2 copies of the gene that are the same allele, capital T, or lowercase, you're what's called homozygous. Remember, homo means same. If your parents, say mom gives you the capital T and dad gives you the lowercase t, and you have the 2 different versions of the allele, you are heterozygous. Remember, hetero means different, and zygous refers to the zygote. So, different zygote, same zygote. If you have 2 of the same alleles, or 2 of the same versions, you're homozygous. 2 different versions, heterozygous. Now, the last few terms I want to discuss, one is genotype, and that is the actual genetic makeup of an individual. What alleles do you have? It includes the alleles from both parents. This is where you can be heterozygous or homozygous. So your genotype can either be tall, short, or short, short. Now, phenotype is the physical manifestation of the genotype. It's the observable characteristics. So if you're big T, or big T, little t, you're going to look tall. Your phenotype will be tall, even though you have one of 2 possible combinations, be it big T, or big T, little t, of the actual genotype. If you have a recessive phenotype, that is, you're short, then your genotype must be little t, because there's no dominant trait to mask it. Hopefully these terms and having gone over them for just a minute will help you as you prepare for these next few lectures. If you have difficulty with these, please refer to your textbook or send me an email for any additional clarification you need.